Elizabeth here, and welcome to part 2 of my Q&A. If you guys did not see part 1, I will link it up here. But today I'm going to be talking about a lot of exciting things as well as some stuff about me personally that you guys asked. So I'm going to jump right in because there's a lot to cover. The first one is, what are some of your hidden secrets for different places to take engagement pictures? I feel like beaches and parks are used so often. Very true. What are some of your favorite unique photo spots? So I am the kind of photographer who does a lot of research into my clients, their hobbies, their personalities, how they spend their time in order to curate a list of unique ideas for their engagement session. So I am not following the philosophy of let's just choose a pretty place in town unless my clients specifically want to go there. I want to choose something more meaningful for them, but that's also still beautiful. So for example, if my clients love coffee and they spend their Saturday morning sipping coffee at a cute coffee shop, I'm going to find a beautiful coffee shop for them to spend part of their photo session. I will research it. I will make sure that it's got beautiful backdrops and good lighting, great settings. So I'm doing all of this research. I will often spend hours trying to curate a beautiful list of locations for my clients that have a lot of meaning for them. So that's kind of how I go about it. But if I am shooting at a beach or a park that's really commonly shot at, I will always try my best to make it look different from either the last time I shot there or from how most photographers shoot it. I don't want my photos to look like carbon copies of past work or other people's work. I want to give my clients something special. So you still can use a very popular spot, but make it look completely different depending on where you shoot and what angles you take. The next questions have to deal with makeup. The first one is, what lipstick is picture perfect? I'm not the best person to answer this, but I will give it a go. So I always think that if you have the priority of your lipstick lasting all day, go with a matte lipstick. It might be a little drier, so if you have really dry lips, I would avoid it, but it is something that you could eat through. You don't have to worry about touching up as much. Now, a lip gloss or something like a little bit more velvety is going to be more hydrating, but if you have a lip gloss, if your hair is down or you've got like pieces down, it might fly into your lips. That gets super annoying if it's windy. I know that bothers me so much. I had my hair up on my wedding day, and that made it not a problem. So it's just kind of your preference. If you don't mind touching up throughout the day, then a non-matte is gonna be a great option for you. But having said all this, I think that one thing I see all the time is that a lot of brides can be really scared of like lip color. I love bolder lips, but you can also do like a semi-bold color. I think that it helps your lips pop because I am somebody who naturally has no color to their lips. And I see a lot of brides who are similar who really don't wear any color on their lips, and it does tend to look washed out. So have some color, don't be afraid of it. Know that when you're doing wedding makeup, you have to put a little more on than normal to have it show up on camera. So even if you want natural makeup, you have to go a little further than you would go on your day-to-day life in order to get that to really show, because otherwise it could look really washed out. And that's something that hair and makeup artists will tell you a lot. Now, the second question is there any specific kind of makeup you notice on brides that doesn't do well or looks bad in photos? That answer is pretty much no. It's more so if there's a bad makeup artist who does not blend well or who does not use the right colors or the right style of makeup for the bride's face. And I often see that with cheaper makeup artists who are never people I referred. I've usually never heard of them. And I don't know, like, not to say that inexpensive makeup artists are bad, but I will say if you are going really budget on your makeup artist, just make sure that you have thoroughly vetted their portfolio. Look at their Instagram, look at their iPhone photos that they've taken of clients on the wedding day. Does it photograph well? If so, then yeah, do a trial with them, make sure it looks good, and then hire them. But you should really be doing that with any makeup artist or hair stylist that you use. I think you have to do your due diligence, because if you don't like your makeup in photos, you're gonna hate all your photos of you. Like, it is such an important thing, and I would say something to not skimp on is the way you look. If you don't feel good on your wedding day, it will show through in photos. If your makeup looks bad on your wedding day, it will show up in the photos. So really choose somebody who is great, maybe who your photographer recommends, because we spend a lot of time looking at hair and makeup close up in photos. And the next question is, would you recommend booking your wedding hair and makeup artist for engagement photos, or is that unnecessary and overboard? No, not at all. I would say use the same person unless the first person you use you don't like, and then yes, by all means use somebody different. But I have a lot of my brides, I'll recommend them my favorite people who do incredible work in San Diego. They'll use them for the engagement session and then they'll hire them for the wedding. And it's nice because the more time the hair and makeup artist spends with you, the better they learn how your hair and your skin performs with certain styles and makeup. So it's great for them and it's great for you to get more comfortable with them so that if you don't love something on the wedding day, you don't feel as nervous to say, can we change this? So the next question is, what is a good way for a self-conscious bride to get great wedding photos without feeling awkward or weird in the photos? My best answer for that is to make sure you choose a photographer you feel very comfortable with. Like I mentioned in part 1 of this Q&A, you need to have great conversations with them verbally to understand how you connect and how well you kind of jive together. So if you feel at ease with them, it's going to help so much on the wedding day. The second one is to make sure that the photographer you hire does a lot with posing. Do they just call out one pose and then get silent and then you're like, oh, like, does the pose look great? Like, do my hands look okay here? I'm not really sure what to do. That like kind of anxiety will show through. It will make you feel uncomfortable. I specialize in posing. I give a lot of direction and I attract clients who want that. They want to be told the little things. That said, even though I give so much direction, it still looks natural and organic. It does not look posed because of how I work with them throughout their photo time. So just make sure that you find somebody whose posing looks great in their photos, and hopefully they will do the same for you to make you feel less awkward and uncomfortable. I had a couple of questions ask me my thoughts on fake flowers and how they photograph. And I'll say that I've only had fake flowers twice. One was simply bougainvillea. Bougainvillea is very kind of delicate and so also sparse. So sometimes florists will mix in real with faux bougainvillea to make sure it looks full. And that usually works out fairly well because it's got a mix of real and faux in there. But the second time I did have a bride who had an all faux bouquet and then faux arrangements randomly and then some real ones. And it was really, really hard to make the bouquet look like real flowers because they're faux flowers. Like some are really convincing, but if you're photographing it a lot like the bouquet or getting up close with it, I mean, there's just nothing really you can do to make them look real if they don't look real in person. And I think that, sometimes people have to use faux because of budget reasons, and I totally get that. But if you can, at least make sure that your most photographed pieces, such as your bouquet and the centerpieces on your head table, those are real or at least have some real in them to help. Because again, like I can't make fake flowers that look fake look real. There's just nothing to be done. I can shoot it really dreamy and soft and kind of blurry. And even then, like I did with the past bouquet, you could still tell, like if you looked at the photo, you could tell. Scrolling through like a feed of it, you might not notice, but looking at the photo, there was nothing I could do to make it real. So it's just something to keep in mind. If that's going to bother you, try to have as much real as you can, or let your photographer know, hey, this over here, this is the real stuff, shoot this. Don't worry about shooting the faux stuff, close up. Maybe just shoot them wider where you can't really tell. But if you get close up on something that's fake, odds are it's gonna look fake. I know there's some companies that do a great job. I just don't work with faux flowers like hardly ever, so I can't really attest to certain brands, but I would say you can always order them, take a picture on your iPhone, see how it looks when it comes out. This next one is, have I ever witnessed a bride or groom smear cake on each other's face during cake cutting or any other wedding faux pas? Yes, I have. I've only really ever had a few people smear the cake. Usually it's the bride on the groom a little bit, but I did once have a groom smear cake on the bride's face and she ran off crying and left the wedding for like 10 minutes and came back and just was not in a great mood. So I would say if you are considering smearing cake, please just make sure that your significant other is okay with it. And I would hope that if you are the bride and you've had your makeup done and you don't want it ruined by cake in your face, that you tell your significant other, please do not do this to me. I really would be so upset if you smeared cake on my face. And hopefully they respect you enough to respect your wishes. I've really never seen any other faux pas. That was probably one of the most dramatic things that I have seen because the bride did not want cake on her face and the groom did it anyway. It got in her eyes. It just was really bad. So please don't do that unless your significant other is okay with it and completely on board. How do you deal with a difficult vendor or vendor's assistant? This particular person loves their photographer but not the second shooter. And I would say if this person is not treating you well, you need to have a conversation with the main vendor and say, hey, I love working with you, but I've been made really uncomfortable by your assistant and I would really appreciate if they were not there on the wedding day. That's really all you can do, and hopefully the photographer or the vendor will listen to you. I know if somebody ever told me they didn't like my second shooter, which they don't meet until the day of the wedding, that photographer would never work with me again and they would have a serious talking to about their behavior. If it is the main vendor you hired that you are not getting along with or you find they're difficult, One thing to make sure of is that you maybe ask somebody else who's not in the situation. So ask a friend or a coworker, hey, can you look at these emails? Just tell me I'm not crazy. Let me know. Get somebody's honest opinion, because sometimes in the wedding world, couples can get really stressed and maybe they can read somebody as being difficult when it's really the couple being difficult. So it's always good to have somebody else say, like, oh no, like you're totally right, they're being difficult, or like maybe like, you've been a little bit, I hate to use the word crazy, but like intense about this, and they're just trying to like, do their job. I don't know. It's always good to just make sure before you really go to somebody and say, you've been unpleasant to work with, we need to part ways. If they are being difficult and you have unpleasant experience with them, it is probably worth losing the money you spent on them and hiring somebody else, because even though it costs more, your happiness and peace of mind on the wedding day, I promise you, will be so much more important. In 10 years, you'll be glad that you spent a little bit more money for somebody who made you feel better, then sucked it up, kept the money that you had spent with the bad vendor, and dealt with the bad vendor all day. Especially if they're a vendor who's going to spend a lot of time with you on the day, like your planner or your photographer. If it's just your linen company that's been difficult, I mean, you don't have to see them on the wedding day, so it's not as big of a deal. But if it's somebody who's going to be there with you 8 hours that day, it is so much worth spending extra money to replace them with somebody who makes you feel better. The last few questions are questions about me and my style and what I love to shoot. The first one is, what is my favorite style of wedding to shoot? I would say, honestly, I love fine art, really lush weddings. I love things with lots of flowers, really lush flowers, color. I'll talk more about color in a bit. I love very European-inspired designs, or really kind of modern and unique designs. I am not a huge boho fan. It doesn't mean I think it's bad. It's just not really like my style. I've shot boho weddings and I can shoot them beautifully. But if I had to choose, I would go with a fine art European style wedding, or something that's kind of modern but not minimal. I'm not really a fan of like, I mean, I am, but I'm not. I love when I get to shoot things that aren't simple, that are like more lush and full, because it's just, I don't know, it's more fun. There's more to shoot. I can get more creative with things, and it's not as minimal. So that's just my preference. I love all weddings though. Above all, it's my clients and their personalities that are more important to me than like the aesthetic of the wedding. I think that if I just have really sweet, appreciative clients, then I love the wedding no matter what. Are you planning on having kids? The answer is no. My husband and I do not have a desire to have children, just for a lot of reasons. Simply, we just don't want to have kids. We see ourselves being a little bit more flexible in our lives, traveling a little bit more, focusing on our careers, and then also still fostering kittens and just playing with our adult cats. That's really what we want to do. So that was that answer. What was your favorite part about your wedding day? Probably dancing on the dance floor with all of my guests at the evening. It was just really fun to dance. Like, I picked really fun like electronic dance music, and everybody had such a great time. So those are the memories that I love the most from the wedding day. And then they also asked me if I had a regret for my wedding day. The answer is no, not really. The only thing I regret is we didn't hire a videographer, which that I don't regret, but I do regret not asking somebody to just use their iPhone to film the toast and then our first dance that we had. Like, we have some snippets of those things from different people, but I wish that somebody had just filmed a really like simple, crappy iPhone video of those things just so we could hear it. But that's really the only thing I regret, but it's not like the biggest deal in the world to me. The next one is, what was the most fun thing to plan about your wedding? Probably the color palettes and the flowers. I think I have a video all about choosing your wedding florist up here, which has been a really great video. People have really loved it. And that's kind of something fun you guys can go watch after this. But I love the visual. It was really important to me in our wedding to have just a gorgeous wedding, because I do this all the time. That, yeah, like the whole guest experience was equally as important, but I really wanted a beautiful wedding, like lots of color, lots of pink, like tons of flowers everywhere. And I will show you guys pictures of the wedding in July. We're getting our wedding published on Martha Stewart Weddings, and we are not allowed to share a single photo until it goes live on their website. So once it does, sometime in July, we don't know when yet, I will share everything about the wedding, I promise. The next one is, what is your favorite like wedding color palette to photograph? Anything with actual color, I will say that. Not like bold purples and bold blues and reds. I love softer, cool tones. I love lots of pinks. I love French blues. I love like soft butter yellows. I love peach tones. So anything colorful. We are kind of in an ongoing multi-year trend right now of ivory green and blush and gold palettes, or some variation of that. So that's beautiful, but I know myself and many other people in the wedding industry are just itching for color these days, because wedding trends come and go, and we've been on that neutral, like kind of muted palette for so long that we are all so ready for like a spike in elevated, elegant color. And you can absolutely do color and have your wedding be sophisticated. I think that if you stick with the more like cool tones, or if you stick with things that aren't like bam, like bold red and like bold yellow, like it's just the way that you put colors together. Like you can make them look soft and beautiful, and that's my preference. Some people really like strong purples, strong reds, like strong, like just whatever, oranges. That's not really my aesthetic. I like the softer colors but still punchy, and when you guys see my wedding, that'll make a lot of sense. But that's my favorite thing to photograph. That's why most of the editorials I put together all have color in them, because I want to have more color in my life. I just love it, especially pink. The next question is the final question, and it is, what else are you passionate about outside of photography, and what does a day off look like? I am very passionate about kittens and fostering kittens. I'll leave a link to a video all about fostering kittens up here. I absolutely love working with the San Diego Humane Society to help these kittens have a temporary home until they're ready to be spayed and neutered and then adopted. That is a huge passion of mine. They can make any bad day feel amazing. So I just love it. It's great for them. It's been great for me. I also really love on my day off just like watching TV. I know that's kind of a boring answer, but I love television. I love good television. I don't do reality shows, and we don't have cable, so I'm mostly watching things like The Crown, Game of Thrones, even though I didn't like season 8, and other shows that just have a lot of substance and great writing to them. Handmaid's Tale, I love. It's so terrifying, but I freaking love it. It is just such an incredible show. We're just wrapping up Chernobyl, which has just been really dark and hard to watch, but just an incredible show. So I love things like that with a lot of substance, beautiful lighting, beautiful writing, all of those sorts of things. So either that, or my husband and I will go on walks in Balboa Park, or we'll go eat at like a fun restaurant, go out for cocktails. I usually love really fruity cocktails. We also love taking walks on the beach, which is like super cliche, but we live in San Diego, so it's so easy to do. I love exercising, going to Pilates. I love seeing my trainer at the gym. I think that those things make me feel better about myself. So in my off time, I usually fill it with exercise, which is good for me, and it's just something that I have learned to love. I used to hate it, but now I like it. But anyways, that is pretty much it. I know it's not like the most glamorous answer. I'm not like jet setting off to Paris every weekend that I'm off work. I typically only travel for work, which is kind of fun, and it gets me to exciting new places. But if you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like. My next video is probably going to be something that you guys are going to want to check out. It's going to be really exciting. I will see you guys then. Bye!